This segment is brought to you by Jigmaster Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today.
Welcome to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. This is the final cast segment with your hosts Brad Hicks and Josh Eldridge, where we cast our final opinions on all products, good and bad. Welcome to the final cast. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the final cast on the Paddle and Fin Network. I'm your host, Josh.
I'm Brad.
And tonight, we have Dean Frye from the Bomb Anchor Company with us tonight. How's it going, Dean?
Good, guys. How are you doing?
Good. So I've been playing basically message tags with Dean for the past, 2 months, month and a half at least. I got mine, and Brad was talking about getting his, and then he waited, and then he got it, and then I thought he already had it, and I was like, I'm gonna schedule Dean, and I've been talking to Dean on and off for the past month and a half, trying to schedule this, and finally Brad got to spend some time with his. Obviously, we know the problems going on all over pretty much any industry, but you're starting to see a really kind of craziness this past couple weeks for the kayak industry. Everything's getting really slowed because of suppliers, and all the kayak companies are way behind all the boat companies. I know there's quite a few of them that will not be shipping kayaks out until August now at this point. So, and it's getting to be slim pickings out there. Even the people I've even seen some people that are holding on to used boats that have really cheap kayaks, and they're selling them for $150 to $200 marked up of what they're worth at this point, and they're selling them because it's just such a high demand out there right now. So I know, Dean, you guys were struggling a little bit to try to get out the products just a little bit. Didn't you have some supplier issues yourself?
Yeah, initially they told me it was going to be, I guess, first week of June when I get my first 500. The process is with this is they've got to make a mold. They do a casting. They send you a blank that's not drilled. Then they send it off to basically finish or mill work or whatever, and they drill the holes for you. Then they send you that sample overnight, and you say, yeah, it's good. And then finally, then they start production run. I think it got bumped back by about a month initially, and then they were telling me first week of July. And the next thing, they're bumping it back towards first week of June. So, it kind of went back and forth, because you're sitting there, on pins and needles, hoping that your product gets there. You got a bunch of stuff planned. You want to try to get it put out there, and then just kind of put all that stuff on hold basically at this point, because you never want to promise something you can't deliver, and you don't want to also have a bunch of stuff that you can't sell either. So,
yeah.
But we got them. I got 500 of them right now. My first batch, I've got 100 of them. I've already had coated and ready to go. So we're getting ready to amp up and get things moving here. So pretty exciting.
Yeah. Nice. So what are you a kayak fisherman also?
So I am. I kind of give a little background on me. I started watching Jim Salmon's kayak fishing show 10 years ago or whatever it was. It was maybe 15 years ago. And Chad Hoover's show. And I told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to do that one of these days. And I love the show. It just seemed very peaceful, relaxing. You always look for that escape from work. And that's what I was looking for, that just to get out in nature. Of course, I grew up on a farm and raised in the outdoors. I've hunted and fished all my life. And so I stuck that in my head, and I said, I'm going to do that one day. And so I did buy kayaks about 10 years ago. I bought an Emotion. I think it was a Stealth Angler, if I remember right, when they first came out. And I bought another Emotion for my son, who was small at the time. Of course, he's not small anymore. And, I got them. I didn't use them. They kind of sat around, and I literally walked into the shop. I had them hanging from the ceiling. I said, I'm tired of looking at those things. I'm going to join a club. I'm going to start fishing kayak tournaments. And so I joined Kayak Anglers of Missouri back in July of 2018. And I said, I'm going to fish every event the rest of the year. And that's what I did. So I fished every event. I did all the monthlies. And my first 6 months, basically, of a club, I got my invite to the national championship, which was pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
I suck at fishing, but I got my invite. So, it's all about points and just going to tournaments and meet people and stuff. And so I really got into it. And then I upgraded. I bought a Cabela's, I think, what is it, a Pro Angler 120 or something like that.
Yeah.
if I remember, had that kayak for about 2 or 3 months, and then I started looking at all the different kayaks on the market. And New Canoe kept coming back to me personally as, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", I'm 250 pounds, and I need some room, and I need a high seat. I got bad back, and all those things. And that just kept kind of coming back to me. So I found a shop here locally, and bought my first New Canoe, and that's the rest is history. So
Which New Canoe do you have?
so I've got three. I've got the Pursuit, I've got the Frontier 12, and I've got the F10. So the first day I walked into the shop and bought a kayak, the owner of the shop said, "Hey, how would you like to be pro staff for New Canoe?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, I had no idea what this is and what's pro staff. I'm a newbie. I fished farm ponds my life. I never fished big lakes." So he kind of told me, he's like, "Well, they've been wanting to get somebody in the shop, and you didn't come in here with your hand out. You seem like you present yourself well, and we'd like to have you." And I was like, kind of speechless, but like, sure. So that kind of got the ball rolling. So next thing you know, I'm pro staff for New Canoe, and I'm trying to learn who's who and do all this stuff. And, as a newbie into this sport, you don't know anybody, and I still don't know anybody. I mean, it's just, there's so many people out there, so many podcasts, and so many guys that I call pros in the industry that, I've never met, but talked to them on the phone and chatted with them and stuff like that. So it was just that was the spark, that started it all. So I fished the next year. After that, went to the championship, and it's kind of weird. I'll show you the first one. So we bought a house, and this thing's in one of the basically closets of the shop. It's the shop put with a little piece of chain welded onto it. And we have a little pond in our front yard, and the guy that owned it previously had made that for a boat anchor, a little John boat or something on the pond. And I saw this thing, and it was all rusty. And I grabbed a can of red paint, and I just spray painted red because that's what was on the shelf that day. And I looked at it, it looks like a cherry bomb. So I actually wrote cherry bomb anchor on it. And this was like 4, 5, 6 years ago. This probably happened even before I got into the kayak stuff. And that always stuck in my head about what a great anchor that would be. Well, then I got into kayak fishing, and I started reading blogs and reading this and just, Facebook stuff. I never even had Facebook until I got into that. And I started looking, I said, everybody talking about grapple anchors and how they got hung up and got caught, and they'd have to cut them off. And I'm like, well, there's $25, $30 every time. And so I kept going back to that anchor that I painted, and I kept thinking, like, man, if you had a round ball, wouldn't that be perfect for a kayak? Because you can still wedge it against a rock, but you can still lift it. You can nestle it down in like the mud. If you pick it up and jig it up and down, it'll settle in the mud, it'll settle in the sand, it'll hold. And I thought, man, what's the perfect weight for that? And I thought, well, if they're making 3.5s to 5s for grapples, why not a 6-pound round ball? I think that should hold any kayak, at least 10, 15, 20 mile winds. So I made one, started doing my testing, and it worked. I mean, it worked great. And so then the idea kind of spawned from there, and I sat on it for probably 2 years and didn't do anything with it. And so it's funny is I pro staff for Tri-State Trolling Motor in Wentzville. Also, they're the ones that asked me to pro staff for New Canoe, and me and the owner's son Robbie are staying at the St. Louis Boat Show. And I said, man, I got this crazy idea. I was like, will you help me? He's like, yeah, I'll help you. So I said, I'll make them. You sell them in the shop. We'll partner up. He's like, go for it. So I did. And so I started welding the first versions, which are basically a 6-pound shot put. Welding a 3/4 cap, drilling the hole, and putting another grommet or a little grip loop sleeve on the other side, and started selling them out of the shop. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. I said, but the only problem is you're going to get water in there eventually, and it could rust. And I said, I see there's got to be a better way to do it. And one of the guys in the shop actually mentioned, like, hey, why don't you drill a hole all the way through it and put like a pocket in the bottom of it? I go, great idea. And so there it went. And I thought, man, what's it going to cost to make these things? You call 1,000 different people, you get 1,000 different answers. And then finally it just stuck with Acme Foundry. They were the best price and offered, I think, the best product. And it's kind of funny, the old Acme Roadrunner cartoons.
Yeah.
See, it's Acme
like,
Foundry,
it's
like,
bomb.
it's now making my bombs. It's like a perfect fit. So why not? So then we came out with the new version. You can see there's a pocket in the bottom for that loose sleeve, and the space of that cord goes all the way down through the anchor to the bottom, and you can push it out. If you want to cut it off or you want to change the length, you can snip it, redo one if you want, or whatever. And it just slips up in the pocket. So, and the cool part is all your water is going to drain out of there essentially too. So you're not going to have any rust issues and stuff like that. So that's how it all got started.
I think I have one of the older ones.
You do. You do. The
Okay.
new one's just hit in the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
So my
I got
first
you.
batch powder coated, so they're going to start hitting. The last batch, actually, I put a post about the new ones. A few people said, "Hey, can I get the new version versus the old?" So we swapped them and got a new version, and they were pretty much all sold. I think I had 3 of the old ones. So you actually have a keepsake or a collector's item, I guess you
Hey,
could say.
it's cool, man. It works, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah.
to ask you guys. Both of you got to try them out, correct?
Yep.
Hmm.
Hey, what's your
Yeah,
thoughts on them?
I bought mine probably about a month ago, I want to say. I received it about a month ago. It didn't take very long to get it. I I kind of expected it because I know like a lot of times when you're a small company and a lot of this stuff is almost made to order, there's no big reason for you to have a giant back stock of this stuff sitting around, because it's like you said earlier when the COVID start, you didn't want to be out there promising and selling these things and then,
Right.
you know, months go down and then all of a sudden you realize also that you're backlogged and it's going to take forever to get caught back up. So, when I ordered mine, I was like, it'll get here when it get here. I had 2 anchors prior to that. I had a 3.5 grapple, and then I also though had a 8-pound mushroom style. The grapple was not good at keeping me in place. It was too light even for a kayak. And being a river guy, I never actually deployed it like it's meant to be deployed because of fishing in the rivers, and it's sort of dangerous to actually use anchors somewhat in a river.
Oh,
It's just
absolutely.
so the way I had actually done that anchor, I treated it like a chain, like how they do the drag chains. I had a
Right.
Coosa HG that had the slot for it and the little guide, little metal bars that are kind of like arched over that hold the line in place.
Hmm.
And I never did the drag chain, but what I ended up doing with that, and I saw some other guy, it was kind of cool idea, is I put a carabiner on it. And so what I did, instead of having it hooked just to the top and then having the grapple part at the bottom, I clipped to the bottom because there was like an eyelet down there also. And then I ran my cordage up to the other one, and I put like a really light zip tie on it, like the one of the small thin ones.
Right.
And I heard you could use it like that. And if it gets stuck, if you yank hard enough, that zip tie will break, and then you're pulling from the bottom that's stuck as opposed from the top against the rock, and then so
Right.
you could pull it out. And it worked several times.
Mhm.
The only big problem with that though was that, and what I ended up doing too is taking a big zip tie and zip tying the actual grapple part shut. So it was kind
Oh,
of like
gotcha.
I didn't ever use it as a grapple itself. So it worked to slow me down in the rivers, but if I was fishing lakes and there was wind, I was still moving no matter what. And I
Right.
had it on a like a dog leash style that had, like paracord style. And I had to add like, I don't know, maybe like 15 feet to it. So it worked up to about, I want to say like a depth of like 10 to 15 feet. But because if I got in anything deeper than that, I was moving because I didn't have enough anchor line out at that point. As with any anchor for our listeners, if you are out there and you're trying to use an anchor, what is it? Is it like a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio? So whatever your depth is, you want to have like the twice the amount of anchor line out for an anchor to properly hold you. If you
Correct.
go and it's just straight down, no matter, I mean, I did this with an 8-pound just to test it and I still moved.
Hmm.
So you have to have a decent amount of anchor line out. I've been able to use it and stay in place without hitting that 2-to-1 ratio. But if it picks up enough, you'll start moving. But you kind of,
Right.
if you get, like, if you're in 20 feet of water, you want 40 feet of line at least. And
Hmm.
then you will pretty much stay in place. I tested out the bomb with that recently, and it held me in place. I got it stuck once, but the reason I got it stuck was the area that I was fishing in had a lot of weird concrete man-made rock in it that was
Oh, gotcha.
like kind of ledgy almost. Like there was like, here's like this and here's the next one. And I think I had somehow slipped up underneath it and I didn't get it. I was stuck where I was at, but all I ended up doing was paddling backwards like about 10 feet and I popped it out with no problem.
Right.
It was
That,
just
I'd hate
by
for you to say
chance.
you lost the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not at all. It's
They
I
have
think
been stolen, though. I mean, I think that's kind of cool in a way if you think about it. But because I remember Chad Hoover called me, he's like, "Hey, man, this buddy of mine, Daniel Morris, was at a kayak tournament and somebody stole his anchor. Can you help him out and send him another?" I was like, "Absolutely." I go, "Hey, Chad," I go, "at least it means that they're likable. If they're stealing them, then I
Yeah.
can sell them."
Heck yeah.
So I got to laugh out of that. I was like, it's kind of unfortunate, but I was like, it's kind of made me think like, yeah, it's something people like. They think it's cool. So
yeah, it's definitely a solid product. Very well thought out. There's a lot of people that mention like the cost of it's high. But for me, I reached out to you kind of to ask questions about it. And you want to go into like what you describe as the actual, because this thing looks like a bomb. For those who are unfamiliar with it, it looks like literally a cartoon bomb. Like it reminded me of Mario Brothers right away.
oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah, there's the other comments I get a lot. It looks like Mario Brothers, the bombs in there. So for some
and
little older generation, so I revert back to Roadrunner and stuff like that, and Wile E.
Yeah.
Coyote. But
and the fact that you added DA to the front of it, like the bomb, like it's hilarious to
oh
me.
yeah,
I like it.
well,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember when Chad talked about it. Like I remember his video about it, and I'm like, well, Chad finds really cool stuff, man. Like, he
yeah,
finds cool products out there, and I went and checked it out. And I'm like, that's pretty awesome. And I was like, and I liked it because one, like my 8-pound mushroom anchor was solid. It worked great. Didn't move as long as I had. I mean, it was 8 pounds, but that was the
oh, yeah.
problem. It was 8 pounds, and it took up a lot of room. It was a lot of weight. And even though it had drain holes in it, that thing still held a lot of mud. So if I was in like
Right.
silt and I stuck that in my boat, dude, it was just by the end of the day, I'm like, where did all this mud come from? I mean, I track a lot of mud in myself, but I had it like behind my seat and I'm realizing that, man, I can't get that thing to drain that stuff out fast enough. I would drain the water out and there'd still be a good inch of mud all the way around the inside of it. And I'd have to stick it in the water for 5 minutes, sitting there trying to, and that just stuff doesn't come off that easy. You think it would,
No,
and it really doesn't.
no. You got to take it to the car wash and literally power wash that stuff off to get it clean again. Been there, done that. So yeah, and that's kind of the great part about the design too, is that it's round, so you don't gather mud. It's not going to hang up the weeds. I mean, you're going to get some weeds, but a grapple style and even a mushroom style, you're pulling up a big bed of lettuce, whenever you're fishing in grass and stuff like that too. So it just, that idea always stuck, and I'm like, it's a perfect anchor. You think you got to have a hook or some kind of edge to grab a hold of to work, but really you don't. You just need the weight to be right for what you know what I mean. So that's when I just started playing with weights, and the bigger one that I had was actually, I think it's a 8-pound wanker. It's for like high school age boys, whatever. The small ones are 6 pounds, are for like middle school kids, and that's the weight that I decided to go with. Obviously, future plans and the whole, there's like, when I talked to Chad on the first time on the phone about it, he's like, "Man, do you realize like there's the boat market, there's this, like you can keep going with these things and do that?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I do." I said, "I've already thought of that." I mean, it's basically infinite as far as how far you want to take it. And of course, it's all about, it takes that to get it there. So you start out small, you make one, and then I got several other ideas. There's going to be some, let's say, other bomb type looking stuff, maybe some dynamite stick looking stuff. I'll just kind of throw that out there
Nice.
to add to the company. When you think about river fishing, we do have what I call the old ball and chain, which
Yeah.
is literally an old ball and a chain. So this is a new version with it welded on there. So we offer that too. And this is basically designed for river fishing. So when that chain's moving and it's rubbing those rocks and you're swinging in that current all the time, you're not going to fray that cable. You're not going to fray your rope. That's what that's designed for. It's not really designed to drag it through a river necessarily, but it's just designed to take that rubbing on the rocks all day long and not have any issues with it or break off. So that kind of threw it out there too. And like I said, there's, a stick of dynamite would look pretty cool with a cable on the end of it. That'd be great for rivers to drag it. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
guys use it. Railroad
I was
ties, they use window weights, and essentially that's, one of those things that's going to be coming next down the pipe. So excited about that.
I was thinking of something like that, like something long and cylindrical, if that's how you
Right.
pronounce it. But kind of like those new drop shot weights that Wicked Weights
Yep.
makes. Something like
Absolutely.
that. But
You
yeah, that
take
would be.
that, you blow it up, man, to make it. I
Yeah,
think
that'd
you'd
be a
have
great
a
anchor.
perfect river thing. So
That's
it's in the
what.
works. Yeah, phone calls have been made, so it's just a matter, you got to be able to afford to buy the mold and make
Yeah.
1,000 of them. So
Yeah, that's what a buddy of ours, Jared, actually uses old window weight. He loves
yeah,
it. He's like that
they
thing
work well.
doesn't get hung up real easy either, and it goes through the weeds. Like he's like it's perfect for like if you want to go fish the lily pads, dude. You drop that thing in there and it comes up clean. So,
Hmm.
Right.
but so the idea kind of came from the John boat that you had that you had found and then you painted it red. That's pretty cool. Um, Now, what was it that kind of sparked to go ahead and just do it? Like, did you see like did you try out anchors yourself and you just didn't like the way they performed, or you just was it from your
I
Facebook
never owned
research?
I never owned the grapple styles. It was mainly just comments I was reading, and people talk about how they kept losing the grapple style ankles and stuff. And I'm not knocking them. I wouldn't knock anybody's product because I think that everything serves a purpose. But I'm the guy that's always trying to think of the next best idea and how to make something better. Like that's just in my
Mhm.
mind how it works. And if I see somebody do something 10 times and I think they're not doing it a certain way, this would be faster. Like that's just the kind of person I'm always looking to better things, improve things, and modify things and stuff. And I just thought, like, well, you need something that's not going to snag. You need something with a little more weight. I mean, you're going to have to add more weight if it is round. And so just having that cherry bomb thing sitting on the shelf just kept going back to it, back to it, back to it. And then finally I said, I'm going to start making these things. And so I made a couple, I think it was the January St. Louis Boat Show in 19. I said, if I do it, will you sell them? They said yes. And then actually July of that year, Blake Young had contacted me and said, hey, we're doing a big giveaway boat at ICAST in Orlando. Will you send me some of your anchors? I want to put them on my boat. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, is this a joke? You know what I mean? Like the owner of
That's
New
awesome.
Canoes called me and wanted to put them on their kayaks. So they did. And Angler Labs was a huge, sponsor for that. I got the list here. There was Marine Math, there was Catch, there was Neverlost, there was Yak Attack, there was Dakota Lithium, Warner Paddles, Kayak Bass Fishing, Ram Mounts, Anchor Wizard, Kayak Fishing. And I'm reading through all these names and I'm like, I'm going to have my stuff with those guys. Like I was floored. I was like, heck yeah, how many do you want? I'll send you a dozen. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I just need 3 boats for now or whatever. And so that's where they debuted was ICAST in 2018. And so
Nice.
that's how it all got started. And then Chad Hoover's walking around the show and sees them on the front of the kayak. And he even told me later on, he's like, I went over to Blake and I go, it's a shot put, isn't it? And Blake goes, yeah. He's like, dang it, why did I think of that? I threw shot put when I was in high school. Like, why did I not think of that? And so he's kind of, it's kind of like he's mad at me because I beat him to the idea. He's like, dude, it's a great idea. I just don't know why I didn't think of it. So I get a call from Blake like 4 days, I guess, after 4 days or 2 days after ICAST was over. And he's like, hey, Chad Hoover wants to call you and wants to help promote your product. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, is this another joke? I mean, I can't believe this is happening this fast. And so sure as heck, man, Chad Hoover reaches out to me and says, send me some. I ship them like overnight because when Chad Hoover says he wants to help you out, you don't say no. And
Yeah.
so I sent them to him, and literally he did. I think it was the week 4 giveaway on his YouTube channel, and he nailed it. I mean, he talked about them, and he's like, they're cool, they're awesome, great idea. You got the Wiz logo, the Da Bomb anchor. It's cool. There's all kinds of catchphrases you can go with it. I mean, it's just that was it. So it was really really cool to first of all, get to talk to him. Other meet him at the national championship by bugging him for a picture, but to have him calling you and promoting your product was awesome too. And then it just kind of like life gets in the way and things kind of fell to the side after that. And we just really weren't promoting them. And I told the owner's son at Tri-State, I said, look, man, I want to take these a little further. I said, I want to grab the reins because they're busy with their shop and they're busy with other stuff. And he was kind of my guy to do the Facebook and the Instagram and the promotions and stuff. And they just got swamped and backed up with stuff. And I said, let me run with it. He's like, it's yours, run with it. So I did. So, and here we are. So I'm trying to get it up and going. And, I sold a 99 Jeep Wrangler TJ to front the money to buy the mold and do all this stuff. And so, it's one of those things, hopefully I get my money back one day. And it's the American dream. I mean, it really is to create a product and then produce it. And of course, you learn the headaches and the trials and the tribulations of all that. And you're working a full-time job and you're trying to get this thing going on the side, doing that stuff, and it wears you thin some days. But man, it's you always got to say it'll be worth it in the end, and hopefully it will. So, but yeah, it's fun.
It's awesome, man. I use mine with an Anchor Wizard. I remember asking you some questions if the Anchor Wizard could handle it, and you said, yeah. You were like, just be careful because the Anchor Wizard wants to not strip, but it wants to slide because it's. I don't think it's the weight that is the hardest thing. It's trying to pull it up into it because I still can't get it to set like all the way in and like kind of collapse, but I could get it all the way up to it. It just doesn't want to flip up into the tube itself.
Right. And there's some tricks for that that I found through testing. One is if you let it out just a little bit and give it a quick jerk, it'll kind of pitch it up. That technique doesn't work. Two is take your paddle, and this is probably the best thing you can do, is take your paddle and just push on the chute as you're pulling it up so that it can't tip prematurely. And then it'll seat in that pocket and then let it rotate up. So I told people that, or you can lift up on the string a little bit to help it, just to get that neck to seat up in there.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest thing. And obviously I plan on doing some videos. It's just one of those things you say you're going to do it, and the next thing is 3 weeks later and you haven't done anything. But I want to do some videos and kind of show people that too, that you can use that paddle to stick it out there and hold that chute and keep from tipping up and you have no problems. And the reason is there's just no tensioner on that tube. You can try to crank it. It's not going to change it. So that's the biggest issue, is it wants to rotate because it's a heavier design anchor than other styles that it was really designed for. So when I say it was, it does work with the Anchor Wizard. Was it a perfect design for it? Probably not. But it does work pretty good. I mean, it does work really, really well.
Well, it gets it. I mean, the Anchor Wizard gets it up and out of the water, so that's the nice thing. It's not dragging, in the water behind you. It's up out of it, in the air, so it works fine. And I accidentally though I used a carabiner that was too big, so like when I go to deploy it, the carabiner actually catches on the on the actual tube of the Anchor Wizard, but has nothing to do with the anchor itself. It has to do with the size of the carabiner that I use. Like, I'm like, man, why did I pick the biggest one that I have almost? Like, it barely fits down that tube, but
there's a lesson that I kind of, I'll show you this. So there's a lesson I kind of figured out. So this is obviously not anything we're selling, but it's a stainless steel version. I don't know if you guys can see it. I can't see myself for some reason, but anyway, this is a stainless steel one I just messed around with. And it's 8 pounds, not 6. It's a little bit heavier. And so I made one for myself because I'm like, well, eventually, the problem is it's too expensive to manufacture, make the stainless. So the material cost is just too high. I'm sure that somebody out there would buy them, but most guys couldn't afford to do it. So I went to Mark Twain about 3 months ago, and my son had this on the front of his. He runs a Pursuit, and he put the clip on there. Well, it pulled up into the chute. The clip got hooked on the chute, opened up. This thing swiveled like this, and then flipped right off into the water. Luckily, it was only about 3 feet. Oh, yeah. So my wife, she's like, you just lost Dad's, precious anchor. Like, you're going in the water to get it. She literally made him strip down in his underwear and go fetch that thing off the bottom. She's like, because I was out fishing. I didn't know that this would happen. She's like, you're getting in that water and you're getting that anchor back now. Like, so he got out like 3 feet of water, reached out, he was able to find it, get it. So the lesson I learned in that is that the carabiner style clips up there could possibly hook, and that snap could open and it could swivel and lose it. So I recommend the kind that you thread on. Basically, it's got like a nut. Get a real small one of those and thread it to your rope. And I was planning on doing some videos and kind of demonstrating that, because I could probably, make that happen again, set up on some sawhorses and show people like, yes, that thing could come loose there. You could lose your anchor. So use this style. And so that's some stuff that I'm going to try to put out pretty soon too. Just so people kind of know, because I hate for somebody to lose, they spend good money on something and lose it. And I feel like if I don't tell them, hopefully this podcast will maybe help that too, but to get that word out there, like, this is what works the best, this doesn't. And of course, with any new product, you get that. You'll get the feedback, you'll get the complaints, you'll get the good stuff, you'll get it all. So, and honestly, I haven't gotten really any negatives so far. So everything's been really, really good.
Now, Brad, you got any questions?
No, I'm just going to go back to how people use the ball with the chute for the Anchor Wizard. when people roll it up in there and it goes right up against that tube, it looks like a cannon with
Oh,
the
it
ball
does.
coming out of it. I saw that picture and I was like, that's so freaking cool. That's
Yeah.
kind of what like forced, or it didn't force me. It like made up my mind that I was going to buy one. I was like, that just looks cool. I got to have that on the Bonafide because that thing looks like a battleship already.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, when I designed it, I thought about it. I always thought anchor weirs in my mind because they are the number one, brand as far as an anchor deployment type system for kayaks. And I thought, well, it needs something on there, and that's why I thought, well, if you add a cap or something that can nestle in, and then it even looks more like a bomb. Like that's just how it all kind of developed. Is you're sitting in your head and like, well, I need something there to hold it so it's gonna nestle in there, right? And I'm like, well, heck, now it really looks like a bomb if you add something like that. And so it just kind of really sprung from that, and it developed into those ideas. So.
Do you have any tips for running one of those off the bow of a Bonafide 127? Because I'm not using the chute right now because there's no room for it.
Yeah. So Chad Hoover said he just runs his through the handle. My understanding there's a handle in the Bonafides. He just simply drops it through the handle. The only issues he's having is, I guess, the cable or something. That's why he likes the short fuse. Rubs on the kayak a little bit there if it just hangs, and it can dangle and it can make noise and stuff like that. So hopefully somebody will maybe come up with a better idea on that, because I think as these get out in the market a little more, you'll see these guys that sit on them like me and they tinker and they think, and they'll come up with a better way to anchor that thing, or maybe build a platform or something that'll mount to that, or maybe recess in there and then it can clamp around that handle, that void hole, and then you can mount your anchor was on top of that. That's the only thoughts I've had, is like the old I guess the canoe seats or the canoe stuff. If you ever taken a board from underneath, you run screws to the top and it just basically pinches between there with two plates. That would be the best idea if somebody could come up with that, and then just basically you would mount that anchor wizard up on top of that. So but he simply runs his right out the hole and just lets it hang there. It gets the boat. If you pull it up snug enough, it's not going to really rock or make too much noise, I don't think. But that's always a concern, especially if you're fishing.
No, that's exactly how I'm running mine now, and I'm having the issue with the paracord rubbing, like you said, on the hull of the kayak. And I have like a little, like, I don't know what you call it, like a valley from where the paracord just rubs when I release and pull it up. So I didn't know if you had any idea.
Yeah, the only ideas I could think, if you got some rubber tubing, put it down towards that end, that might keep it from rubbing or something like that. Just a small, you can go to a hardware store, almost like aquarium tubing, but a little bit bigger, and cut a foot piece or 2 feet of that. I think that might help you. So
heat shrink would wrap too, or
heat shrink would probably wrap around there pretty easy too. I don't know how that stuff even gets brittle in water though or not. I would use some type of polymer type version of that tubing or something like that. You can go to like Rural King or any Home Depot store, and you can find it either braided or non-braided, and in all different sizes. Maybe put a piece of that in there. Look that. Yeah, that's something I could think of.
So one thing I wanted to go over, because you and I had a conversation about in regards to the materials that were used. This is what sold me on it, because I had talked about it on, I think it was our host page one day, and we were chatting about it, and somebody was like, well, don't you think it's a bit overpriced? And I said, well, it could be. I have no idea. I don't know what it's made out of. You know what I mean? And somebody was like, well, you could get like a lead one and it's like a fraction of the cost. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, that's lead. And yeah, lead's way cheaper. But I mean, as an angler, this has always been in my mind. Like when tungsten came around, I was a little apprehensive about using it. But I stopped because of the environmental impact. We sit here and talk about like all the bad stuff that fish have in it, mercury, lead, they have high concentrations of it in older, bigger fish. And, and I'm like, yeah, just think about how many anglers we have in just the United States by itself, how many were losing, their rigs, their lure setups, and it contains pieces of lead, and I'm like, yeah, they're small, but like as a collective, that's a lot of lead that's in the water systems. So when I thought about it, I'm like, dude, an 8-pound piece of lead, that's just crazy for me. Like, I'm like, there's no way I would want to use that. And not only that, but lead's a little on the soft side. So if I'm fishing and I'm in a river and I happen to move and that thing starts banging against something, in my eyes, all I could see was chipping pieces of it off, And so that bothered me. So when that's why I had reached out and I was like, what are these made out of? And you told me, and I was like, all right, that's where that cost comes from, and because I happen to I used to work in the steel industry. So I know like what the cost of this stuff is. So,
Right.
I had to pair that with like, okay, he's making these and that like a piece of metal like that is not like expensive, but you're also having it molded and you're powder coating it, you're adding like like you said, the cap to it, and then you've got the braided metal cord for it. And I'm like,
Right.
that's all labor, that's all labor intensive stuff that's added to what the cost of it's cast. Didn't you say it was cast steel or
Yeah,
cast
so
iron?
so it's called gray metal. It's cast iron, basically, is what it
Yeah.
is. Gray metal steel, and that was a huge issue in the beginning. Is so I started calling all these different places, and what you get is places in Pakistan and Sri Lanka and whatever. Yeah, I could have bought the shot puts cheaper then, but I'm like, why would I buy a shot put cheaper that's not made in the USA, and then weld all this stuff onto it that's not made in the USA and do that? And I did that for a while because that was I wanted to see if this would take off, if it would get going. You have to do something initially. And then I always said to myself, I want to make these things in the USA. And so I called every American foundry. Well, the problem is, as you know, a lot of foundries have shut down. So
Yeah.
there aren't many left. And when I got a hold of Acme initially, they said, here's your price. And so I called the next person, we don't do this or we don't do that, or, we can only do this and we can only do that. So to find somebody that can make them was a task. And then you have a $5,000 basically upfront fee you're going to pay just so they can make a mold that'll make 4 of them at a time. And that's so you got to take into that cost. And anybody that started a business knows that you're burning money left and right just to get it going with the fees and everything else. So initially, like when I was making those things, I'm even still not making anything on them. I mean, when you take the other ones, so I would take them to the powder coater, have the paint that was on there blasted off down to bare metal, bring it back home, drill the hole, weld the caps on, run the cables, crimp them, do all that stuff, and never really counting that as part of, what it cost to make them. That was just simply cost out of pocket to make it. And it was probably close to half what you're paying for it now. I mean, honestly, that's just where it was. Obviously, the costs went down a little bit once I recouped my funds, then the per piece unit, but I'm still paying $5 down powder coated because I don't want to send something out there, rattle can spray paint, that's going to fall off and start rusting up on people. I've had some guys take these with different colors because I've offered various different colors and drag them down a river, and they sent me a picture the next day. It looked like it went through a blender. And they're like, is this normal? I'm like, that must be one rocky bottom. He goes, yeah, that river's pretty rocky. I'm like, you must have drug about 10 miles of it, and he did. So, is powder coat not foolproof? No, but it's 10 to 12 times stronger than paint. It's going to give a more durable finish. And if it does come off, the great thing is there's primer underneath it. It's the best thing you could do. You can cut right back over it and fix it if you want to. Or you can simply leave it like it is. Because, steel is going to rust underneath there once you break through there. Obviously, you can't get powder in that hole. So you might have rust issues down the road for some people, just so you know. But the great part is I do have one here. I'll show you. You can buy a can of Plasti Dip on Amazon for $11. And I coated one, and I don't even think I went, and basically that's what it is. It's like a rubberized finish on it. It's what you see. And so I Plasti Dip one just because I wanted to see, well, how far will this can go? And I did one, and I don't even think I used hardly any of the cans. I could probably spray 10 to 20 of these things with one can that cost me $11. So could I do them cheaper? Yeah. But honestly, I work for a powder coat company now as a sales rep, and I like the powder coat. I just think the finish looks nice. It looks good. It's hard to beat. The great part is they can shoot different colors. So you can with Plasti Dip too, or the spray type stuff too. So I've experimented with a lot of stuff, and I think I showed you. This is the gold vein version.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bumpy finish. The copper vein was really popular with a lot of people. And literally, with powder, there's 10,000 colors to pick from if I wanted to. Some of them require clear, and stuff like that to be stable and stuff like that. But the black finish that I use is the most durable finish in powder that you could probably put on them. That's why I use it. Because I want somebody to be happy with it. I'm going to look at it and go, holy crap, like this thing is made nice. It's made well. It's not a piece of crap. And the great part is now, I can say it's proudly made in the USA, which is awesome. So, I mean, that's what it's all about to me. I'd rather pay a little more and have it say made in the USA and keep American jobs here than buy anything else. And so that's where we're at now. I mean, we're made in the USA, and that's awesome to me. So
Yeah. So, Brad, go ahead. You look like you were going to ask a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was going to talk a little bit more about that copper paint job that you have on there. I just saw you just started doing that, right?
yeah, so I started excuse me, I started offering different colors. One, just trying to generate a little bit of publicity, get some people thinking. It's kind of that double-edged sword because, like, well, can I get a pink one? Can I get a blue one? Can I get an orange one? Can I get a polka dotted one? I'm like, no, you can't do all. Yeah, I can do solid colors, but I can't do polka dots. With powder, it's different.
Yeah.
It's so you have to kind of explain that just to generate a little bit. So, but the plan is now that I have these 500, my next batch I'll have 20 orange ones in there because powder you got to shoot the same color in the booth because it's electrostatically charged powder in the air. It goes everywhere. So you got to shoot batches of colors. So when I went in there to work, the owner's son, he's the one that takes care of all the stuff in the back and shoot them. And I said, hey, can you make me a green one and an orange one and this one, this one? He's like, you're killing me. You got to quit. I mean, it's like, you got to do this color, this color. So like, all right, man, once I get these 500, I'll start shooting in batches. So I'm going to do 20 orange ones. You'll see blues. You'll see the, neon greens or whatever you call it, nuclear green, like New Canoe. You'll see the copper veins. So I'm going to try to do batches, and then I'll try to keep those in. Because what happens is, I have a few of them and say, well, I want this and I want this one. This one I'll say, well, I want one too, and then I don't have it. And I hate to say, well, I don't have it, and it's going to be 2 to 4 weeks. And I've done that to people, and I don't like to do that. So the plan is that once everything gets going, you'll be able to click on there, do a drop down, order whatever color you want, and go from there. So that's in the works. And as you know, it just takes a while to get all that up to speed and get that going. So
is that an extra charge for another color?
I didn't do it initially. In the future, I probably will charge more for the special order colors. Just because it is what it is, and so you gotta, it's they gotta shut the booth down. It's more of a process for them. And, so, it is what it is, but yeah, there'll probably be a little bit more, for that. So
now I had a quick question. You were talking about the Plasti Dip one. Do you think that helps like in sound deafening, like dampen the sound down a little bit?
Yeah, I think it would. When I've sprayed it, I put about 4 coats on there, and it still feels super, super thin. So I don't know if you bought the stuff where you actually dunk it in the gallon jug version later, like when you buy most anchors, like your mushroom anchor that you have, that's pretty thick rubber coating on there. So to get it that thick, I don't know how many times you'd have to dip it, but it's pretty thin. You can still see the ridges in the mold and stuff like that with it. But it does. I would think it would help dampen a little bit. But what I tell everybody, I mean, you want that thing sitting on a cloth or whatever. And what's really cool is like the Yakatap cup holder that I have makes a great anchor holder. I mean, you buy an extra cup holder, it literally fits right in there. I would just take a cloth, lay it in the bottom of it, and it's going to be quiet, or put some type of rubber in the bottom of that thing, a ring or a disc, and it's going to be super, super quiet. I mean, and it's nice is you put it back there by your cup, one side, anchor on the other. You deploy it, you can just reach it out and drop it if you don't have the anchor wizard or whatever you want to do. So when I made it, I'm like, I'm walking around my kayak and I'm like, oh, it does fit in there. Like, perfect. So now I can, instead of making an anchor holder for these things, I don't have to. Someone already did.
Yeah.
And you can kind of, put a little promo their way. So yeah, it fits perfectly in the Yakutat cup holder. Most of the kayaks, like the New Canoe, has a cup holder built in the side. It'll actually nestle in there, and you can slip it over. So it'll fit just about any cup holder anyway. So if a kayak has a cup holder, it'll nestle right in there. So
I like it. It's small. Like it's small. That thing fits like in a lot of places on the kayak that I struggled with the big 8-pound mushroom style that I had. Like that thing was like, I would get that thing in the kayak and then it would like move around and then wedge, and then I'd go to knead it and have to throw it over the side. And I'm like sitting there struggling to try to pop that out. What's nice about that, the bomb anchor, is that it's small. So it fits, it rolls a lot. So you mentioning the Yakutat cup holder, I happen to have one. I haven't been using it like I did in my old kayak. I can't figure out where to put it that I like it. I can put my drink, I usually carry an Nalgene bottle with water in it, and that thing was made for Nalgene bottles. So I think I have a new idea for my cup holder. So,
Yeah, it works. Like I said, I sat there and I'm like, all right, where can you put this thing? And you just figure out all those things as you go. So
Well, Brad, I wanted you, Brad, to talk kind of about a lot of people have seen your anchor setup and you've talked about it and share it with Dean, how you're running everything. Brad's got this real solid anchor system going on with two different styles of anchors. You want to talk about it, Brad?
Yeah, I love this thing, man. So like I mentioned earlier, I have the bomb anchor going off the front, and then I have it running down the side of my kayak and hooked to a anchor wizard reel, and I release it and deploy it and stuff like that that way. And then on the back, I have a Yak gadget system, and that allows me to like adjust it to any width of the kayak. And I can run a pole in that. I could take the pole out. I could put the ball back there if I'm fishing a lake.
Right.
I like the ball on the front of my kayak for rivers, but lately I've been doing it to where I have the ball on the front, the pole on the back when I do tournaments on lakes. And how I did my last tournament, I set up right on top of this point, and I deployed both, and it was probably 20-mile-an-hour winds. I did not budge an inch, and I got to work both sides of this point, like the drop-offs on both sides. And without either of those products, I wouldn't have been able to catch the fish I caught because, in a kayak, fishing in wind, it's not very easy.
Right. Yeah, and that was a huge thing when I got the first Cabela's Pro 120 was, man, I hooked this huge bass literally at the dock where people were putting in boat after boat after boat that day and just skiing around us. It was crazy, crazy fishing up at Smithville Lake. And so next thing I hooked this bass and I'm trying to get my picture, and it's an 18.5-inch fish. It's my first tournament per se where I caught a nice fish. I'm excited, all those things. You're sweating profusely. It's hot and your glasses are fogging, your camera's fogging on your phone, and you're trying to do all those things. And next thing you know, I'm blown out in the middle of the lake. And I'm like, holy crap, like I need an anchor or something to put on here where I can catch my fish. I can drop that anchor, hold my position without getting blown out of the lake while you're trying to get him in, take your pictures and do stuff like that. And that also said that I'm going to get a trolling motor on my kayak one day, which I do have one now, with spot lock and all that stuff. So it's kind of funny,
Nice.
I think here I'm a guy making kayak anchors for kayaks, and yet I use a spot lock and GPS on my trolling motor on my Frontier 12 anyway. So, but yeah, it works great on the other ones. But
hey, they all serve its purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. It does. And I have one on the Pursuit. I run the chute off of there. So depending on which one I'm using, I have it there. But yeah, it's just kind of neat to think, here I am running the trolling motor where I can just push a button and stop me, and I don't need to use it on my main kayak, but hopefully it'll help some other people. So
I have a buddy that'll paddle to shore when he catches a fish, so he don't float out to the middle of the lake.
Yeah, I got blown out quick, and I was literally in the middle of the lake, and I'm like, holy crap, and the white capping and boats are circling you, and then it's a 15-minute struggle just to get back in. So yeah, I learned my lesson quick. Like I need something on there to anchor me quick.
Yeah.
I run mine off the back using the Anchor Wizard with I have a black the bomb anchor. I have the one with I think it's 8-inch wick. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You have a 3.
So the first ones came out with about a 12-inch wick on it. What I found was that the longer cable actually made that Anchor Wizard basically rotate faster. So the shorter fuse actually works better. You can call it the short fuse version. Chad Hoover coined that phrase because he said he had a short fuse, so we'll go with that. And so I found that seemed to work better. So basically from, this day forward, you're going to see nothing but a shorter fuse version. It's probably 4 inches in length. And the reason I did that is I wanted it so if you had the carabiner clipped on the top of it, you can reach down and still pick it up by the thing, and you're still going to have enough to get a hold of and not catch the carabiner, pinch your finger, stuff like that. So this is what you're going to see in production basically from here on out. It works the same. If a guy wants a 2-foot wick, he can custom order one. I can pop the bottom out, cut it off. We can send him a 2-foot one if he wants it. But really, there's no need for it. I mean, this works great. You should never have anything where you're really going to fray it. If you do, then you probably should be using the chain version or something else anyway. Or using some type of other cable or something like that on top of it. But that's basically what you're going to see is a shorter version. It's going to be about a 4 to 5-inch cable in the future. So if somebody wants it like a stubby like this, yeah, we can do it, but you're not going to see many of those coming out. So it'll just be kind of standardized, and that's just what I found works the best for everybody. So You
Yeah.
try to go with what works, and it's T&E. You're testing, see what happens, and that's kind of what we've come up with at this point. So
Yeah. I using mine out of the back is like Brad mentioned, he uses off the front. Brad fishes a lot of rivers like I do. I found mine excelled in the lakes on the back end of the boat with the anchor wizard, especially when it gets to be like a pretty good windy day and you want to fish those banks that are getting, wind blown, and you just deploy it out the back. So for those of you kind of questioning whether or not, you want to run it front or back, kind of consider like what waters you're fishing. I know with the anchor wizard, it's easily moved. So, if you're going to be fishing rivers that day, and like Brad does, he'll face into the current, and then deploy his anchor, and then he'll, for the most part, either A, slow way down, or B, he'll, actually come to a stop and be facing, into the current as opposed to the wrong way, which is down current. But out the back, though, it really helped because the wind's to my back, and it's even crazier because when you set up like that, man, you can make really good long casts. And when I was at a lake one day, I was fishing like a point in a sense, and I was able to cast like over the point and bring the bait back. And as it would drop off, back into deeper water, I was getting hit, and I was like, "There's no way I could be sitting here in this kayak fishing like this without this anchor, especially." With the shape of it being round like that. That was the day that I got it stuck, but I mean, the type of rock that I was fishing in, I was surprised that I hadn't gotten stuck literally like 50 times, to be honest with you. So the fact that it was only happened one time and it was a really quick, easy fix, I didn't have any problems getting it out, but it held me right in spot. I think I was dealing with 20, 25 mile per hour winds that day. So, and and I was in a paddle kayak. I was in the Kilroy HD, and that boat doesn't move as much in the wind, but it still does. It's, it still can get turned really easily, but that anchor, man, solid product for those of you out there that are in the market for an anchor and you're wondering whether or not the bomb's worth the money. In my opinion, it's worth every dime. So
thanks. Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I see a lot of people ask where can they go to find this product to purchase?
So you can go to Tri-State Trolling Motor. The link is basically on the Instagram and our Facebook page. You can order from there. You can send me a direct message. I do PayPal. I can send you a QuickBooks invoice, whatever you want to do. So yeah, you can order either way, however you want to do it. I think they do shipping a flat rate of $10 through Tri-State, but I think that's going to go up. The problem is when you're mailing a 6-pound anchor, shipping just kills you.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they're shipping to Washington and California now, and they're talking 16, 18, 20 bucks some type in shipping, and so we're losing money at that. So I went to the post office. They have flat rate boxes for 15 bucks. I'm going to basically offer shipping for $12.95. If anybody watches the podcast, they contact me, say, hey, I saw you on the podcast, I'd like to get one. I'm going to offer them $39.95, and I'll charge you $12.95 for shipping and handling anywhere in the U.S. So
nice.
You guys get a little bit of discount. So all you do is mention the podcast. You can send me an email to DeBomAnchors at gmail.com. You can use Frye224 at Yahoo, or you can direct message me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want to do. Give me your info. I'll send you an invoice. Once it's paid, it'll ship. Or you can go through Tri-State and purchase there, either one. So,
yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Anything else, Brad?
No, man, we nailed it.
Well, Dean, I do appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk with us about the anchors. Again, sorry for the back and forth for so long. Brad's a slacker, so just kidding, Brad.
I get it, man. Life's
dude,
busy.
you should have seen how. Well, he saw mine. He's like, dude, that thing's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's pretty sweet. He's like, I think I'm going to order one. And then it was like, what, a couple weeks later, and he still hadn't ordered it. And he's like, I finally ordered it, dude. And then like he got it, like, and I didn't know he had it. I thought he was still waiting on it. And I'm like, hey, dude, let me know when you fish with that thing. He's like, dude, I've been out like 3 times with it already. I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? All right, let's get this episode scheduled then. And so I appreciate you taking the time, though, man. It's definitely a cool product. Like you said, you mentioned, like Chad touched on this. You guys got an awesome, an awesome name for the company, and it looks awesome. The whole package itself, everything about it is really cool. And I just wish you the best of luck. I hope you guys keep growing. I'd like to, it'll be cool to see what you guys come up with in the future too.
Yeah, I mean, there's already ideas, like I said, for 2, 3, probably 4 other models, playing with different stuff. It's just a matter of you got to sell, the first batch, and you got to recoup your funds, and you start the next one like any company. And so there's big things coming. Hopefully this thing's going to explode, pun intended, and go from there. So see what happens. Yeah, I mean, that's a great part. Just the name itself, you can come with so many stupid jingles and think about the commercials, and we're gonna try to destroy one of these things coming up soon. I get a lot of people say, well, how much weight will that cable hold? And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you're in a kayak and you've got a steel cable that's grip loop sleeve where you've crimped it and you pull that thing apart, and you probably got more problems than worrying about your anchor. I mean, that's a pretty serious wind if you're going to destroy that thing. Because I half crimped one the other night by mistake, and I tried to pull it and I couldn't even get it apart. So we're gonna take these things and we're gonna hook some trucks to them, and we're gonna shoot at them with some guns, and we're gonna drop them from some stuff. You should see how indestructible they are. I think people like that. So.
Oh yeah, you should try to blow it up with an actual bomb.
We're gonna get some tannerite. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna blow it up with an actual bomb.
Oh gosh,
what's legal, awesome. Of course, if you can do. I don't have.
I can see him. He's like, "Welcome to the bomb, the world's best anchor," and they're all behind like bulletproof glass. Like, should we do this?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I mean, we're gonna shoot it with some stuff, and we're gonna drop it. We're gonna try to pull some stuff. Just we're gonna basically destroy one. We're gonna keep going until we destroy it in the end.
That's cool.
Which is, I think it'll be cool. Make some cool videos, and honestly, that's what people like to watch. I like to see crazy stuff and do funny stuff. So, and we'll do the practical side too, and show people how they work and what's the best way to deploy it. Because I remember, like you talked earlier, with the anchor wizard and the friction part, I set this thing up on sawhorses. Yeah, my kayak set up, and I put the chute on there. I get so happy, and I got this first one, and I'm like, I'm going to see if it'll work and all this stuff. And I hooked it on there, and I touched that little dial, and that thing went and slammed on the concrete floor and bounced like a foot off the ground. And I'm like, well, I'm glad no one's toes were under that thing.
I was going to say that. Oh.
Yeah, and I literally picked this thing up, and I looked at the bottom of it, and there wasn't even a mark on it. I'm like, well, at least I know that the powder coat's good.
Yeah.
It slammed the concrete hard. Didn't even put a mark in it. So what it was is those friction plates inside, when they're brand new, they're super, super slick. And after the first tournament fishing in the rain and getting it wet and stuff like that, it reels it up no problem now. So, and I've kind of told people that had questions, like they had the same issues. It wouldn't reel it up. It didn't have enough strength. And I said, well, it will. You just need to get some of that oil off of there and to reel it in no problem. So all the things you live and learn and have fun with us. So.
Heck yeah. Well, I guess we'll wrap this one up. Brad, did you have anything else?
Nope, we're good.
All right, Dean, thanks again for stopping by and talking with us.
Hey,
and
no, thank you for having me, guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Not a problem, man. And thank you for all of our listeners joining us this week on the final cast. Like Dean mentioned, he offered a discount. So check out and message Dean or message the bomb. You can reach him through Facebook. And so that will wrap up, and everybody have a good night.
See us.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water. and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. TRC Covers, protect your investment. Catch Products, shout out to Catch Products. Go to catchproducts.com and put the Paddle and Fin logo directly on your catch board. Shout out to Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com, use promo code PNF20 and save 20% on all your jig and tackle needs.